Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, I was thinking about how morbid obesity is gluttony, and in Islam, we know your body has rights over you, and your body parts can be made to testify against you on the day of judgment as what you used to do. At least that's what I've read. And even in Christianity, gluttony is a deadly sin, I believe, from what I've read. And today, when I see more and more images now of liberals pushing the fat acceptance movement, they call it, I think it's a form of gluttony worship. Because while so many have food insecurity, we Americans are able to stuff our faces and then watch TV and complain about oppression. I thought about how people like watching these eating channels where fat people eat cheeseburgers and they just eat all kinds of food, like huge portions of food, and that people pay to watch them and that YouTube allows that even though that person is killing themselves slowly. And liberals call it kind to just accept people slowly killing themselves. Now, what's interesting is that my mom struggled with obesity. She was able to get that procedure, liposuction and stomach stapling, where they make your stomach smaller. She lost weight, then gained weight again. And she lives on welfare, has 6 cats. She struggles immensely. She chain smokes. I try to tell her all the time, exercise, go on a walk, get some hobbies, do something, but she has no drive, and she complains about depression. And I thought to myself, if we lived in a different time where she actually had to farm and physically move her body and earn a living, she might do something different, because the environment would force her to actually have to participate in society and to earn her own way. And it made me think of the saying of, I think it was John Smith. He was like one of the first people to colonize here in America. He said, I'm summarizing, but whoever doesn't work shall not eat. And I thought about how there are truly disabled people who can't work, but they can find something to do. Like if you're in a wheelchair, sell flowers. There's something for everybody in some way, to do something good. Stay-at-home moms can sell baked goods. They can do editing online for websites, whatever. There's things that we all can do to make the world a better place and not be just entirely dependent upon the system and then be sloth-like. And so I started noticing more and more obese people, and obesity has become a problem also in Mexico. And AMLO, the president of Mexico, started having foods labeled as high calorie. And I noticed on certain products from Mexico that I buy, there are warning labels on it, and it's really cool. It's really a great project. We all can indulge in sweets. I love sweets. But obviously, you work out and you burn off the calories. Problem is when you eat really a lot of junk food and then you don't work out, and it becomes a staple of your diet. My mom was drinking those big, I think they call them liters of Coca-Cola a day. And it's super unhealthy. And it's hard to get her to eat something healthy, because it's like the tongue gets used to high fructose corn syrup and artificial flavors. In order to strip your palate to like real food again, instead of artificial flavors, it takes like 2 months of hardcore habit training to cut that off. And I just kept thinking about how in America today, we have people who, they reject the high standard of beauty created by the model and porn industry, and that swung the pendulum into morbid obesity and the fetish around it. And there's something evil, I think, about it, where we're letting somebody slowly kill themselves because being fat is unhealthy. I'm not talking about if you're pudgy, thick, curvy, I'm talking about people who clearly there's too many roles and you have to intervene. And I thought further about how the comfort that we have now in America, there's definitely violence, crime, all that jazz. But we do have a certain level of living to where if you go to the food bank, there's something there. If you beg, someone will give. If you don't have a home, they'll find you something. Right? There's even temp agencies that'll find you a temporary job for a month here, another one there. And there's something somehow for you to do. America has great networks in that way. And if you have to work, there's hope that you'll lose weight. And if you have a sedentary job and you're eating and eating and eating, that's also a form of gluttony because you're so bored in your job that you eat for comfort. And so I feel like it's almost like a demon. Gluttony is like a demon because when you see someone just stuff their face, and they're getting fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter, it's a weird feeling. Because when you look at just normal eating, you have a great steak, potatoes, asparagus, you're sharing it with people, and then you go work out, you feel great. You feel awesome. But somebody who is very sedentary and just eating and eating themselves into this coma, there's a self-hatred there that's also selfish. It's almost like possession to where the person has no more desire for survival because it's true that some women used to be a bit more plump because it showed they didn't work the fields back in the day and that they would have enough fat on their body to breastfeed because it takes calories from you and whatnot. And if you're too skinny, it's hard for you to keep a pregnancy because your body's in starvation mode and you need a certain level of fat to keep your fertility good. I understand. But morbid obesity in the past was quite less. There were fewer people who had the luxury to continuously be so fat that they get on government disability. The fact that you can stuff your face so full and then claim disability payments, I don't understand that. The healthy people who self-manage themselves are taxed to support those who choose to sit in the wagon. I don't really think that's a proper way to organize society. I think we've gone to a terrible balance where we are really confused as a nation. People don't know what their gender is. They want to reveal graphic sexual education to kids, so there's no more protection of the innocence of children. And now gluttony worship is prevalent. And it's a form of worship because there was one really obese model on the front of a magazine, and this magazine said in the headline, "She breaks the internet." And it's a sad way to celebrate somebody who is really harming themselves. And liberals have a problem of always trying to protect people from criticism when it comes to health. It's weird. They'll say it's okay to be morbidly obese, but if you didn't want to wear a face mask during Kufi, you were wanting to kill grandma. It's odd. Liberals will also make excuses, like if you go in certain parts of California, you'll see people smoke meth right on the bus. There's plenty of videos documenting this. So someone can smoke meth with a pipe on the public transportation, and they're not allowed. Libertarians will also say you can't arrest them and that you can't do anything because it's their own body. So we as a society should just walk past people drugging themselves to death, and we should also never criticize someone who's eating themselves to death, stuffing their faces. And if a woman has 6 abortions, you're not allowed to criticize her. You're not allowed to judge. And I was realizing that we're going towards a form of self-destruction, to where people want to have a bunch of abortions, use a bunch of drugs, hook up with random people, and now just eat yourself to death. It's weird because it's really selfish. If you are really fat and there's just someone starving because their economy has been co-opted by a more powerful nation, it's just bizarre. Just bizarre. It just makes me feel weird how there's so much food insecurity because the companies are told, dump your milk, keep the prices high. People who control the economy and decide the ebb and flow of the market will pay farmers to not utilize their crops. There's tons of videos and documentaries on this. So they artificially control the food supply, overregulate communities to where they can't grow their own food. And then people will compete more for access to good markets and not live in a food desert. And then you have people who, they don't seek out healthy food. They still seek out unhealthy food. And they just keep eating. They're so bored and they don't have any love for life that they just eat themselves to death. That their tongue, their taste buds, and their stomach rule them. And at least a pig, when it goes to look for truffles and to eat, if you watch the pig, it still does walking, it sleeps a lot, but it still has to get up and go look for it in the wild. And when you put a pig in a pen, the poor things just fatten up and poop on themselves, and they become very unhealthy, and it's not a pretty picture, and they smell horrible. And if you look at how these people who are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, they're trying to market themselves as a new sex genre. And there's like a fetish about them. There's a sadness about them. Where you're like, why don't you just eat some better things and go for a walk? And what's going on here? There's like a malfunction in their mind to where they can't connect what's happening anymore. And they get lost in people saying, oh, you're so beautiful, you're so this. But it's very unhealthy. Some of them are taking up 2 seats on an airplane, 2 seats on a bus. And then people are getting sued for not having space for them. Some of them, when they sit down on plastic lawn chairs, they break. And they still, when they see furniture buckling beneath them, when they can't walk up the stairs because they breathing is just not right. And if someone tells them you really need to lose weight, and doctors, some of them now are just saying it's fine, and you realize how when you see these videos of people complaining how their doctor told them to lose weight, and people are getting mad at the doctors for giving them actually good medical advice, you are beginning to realize we have gluttony worship, and you can't criticize them because they're living out their truth and whatnot. And I find this to be sad because I've tried to help my mom with this, and it's very difficult. Because when you see someone who's broken to where they keep eating and they don't love themselves anymore, it's not beautiful, it's not glamorous, it's a form of hatred. Just like if you were starving yourself to be anorexic. If someone's skin and bones and it's just beyond the pale and they look like a walking skeleton, you're like, hey now, something ain't right and we gotta fix this. You see what I'm saying? When I see morbidly obese people popping up more and more now and being set as models on runways and on posters and stores, you're like, this is not okay. It is proven to be not healthy. And then when you see woke scientists saying you can be fat and still healthy, it's like, what's going on here? Truth is being bent. It's a gluttony demon. There's just something very perverse about it. I find it to be quite bizarre. There's such a contrast of the luxury of America to be fat and complain. And through history, food acquisition is so prized. But today, there's so much abundance that people are bored out of their mind and self-loathing to where they'll just eat and eat and eat and then make money on YouTube from it. it's weird. Those channels get promoted. They don't get censored. But if you just have truthful content or political content, YouTube will skew it to where you get shadow banned and whatnot. But if you are having a table filled with food and you're eating and eating and eating, binge eating, right? YouTube will let you earn money. I really don't understand. It seems odd to me. Let me know what you think. Are you seeing this as well? Do you get what I'm saying? What should be done? What should be done? I really wonder. By the way, if you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. Hope to see you there.